Easter greetings to you and yours this most holy of days, when we join Mary and go to the tomb to find there that Christ is risen. He is risen indeed. It's a journey that started in a manger. It's a season that started as we came down the mountain after the Transfiguration and have spent the last 40 days across mountain tops and valleys until we have arrived here, come to this place together. And it's good to be here with each and every one of you. It's a blessing to have gotten here with you all. I grew up in Fremont, North Carolina, a small farming town southeast of Raleigh. It was the kind of town that, like my friend Jason always says, nothing happens and no one cares. Though I'm sure that my parents and the parents of my childhood friends would say nothing happens and that's why we moved here to raise our families. Fremont is approximately 3 miles round and had somewhere around 800 people in it when I was growing up. This meant for my family that a lot of things that we did happened in the neighboring big city, if you could even call it that, of Goldsboro, North Carolina. This fact underlined that nothing ever happened in Fremont. From a young age, I fell in love, therefore, with anything that happened not in Fremont. Dinosaurs were great, though they definitely didn't ever live in Fremont. They were too big for Fremont. They were as big as Fremont. In second grade, I fell in love with Greek mythology, the characters like Zeus and Apollo and the Narcissist, in the places like Mount Olympus and Athens and Hades. They were so much bigger than life and allowed me to escape the small tobacco town that I knew so well. Then third grade came, and I discovered pro wrestling. Now, here's something about being a wrestling fan in the late 80s and early 90s and growing up in the South. There were 2 main wrestling options: World Championship Wrestling, WCW, and the World Wrestling Federation, WWF. WCW was based out of Atlanta, Georgia, and carried on TBS. WCW ran shows primarily in southeastern towns, places that sounded familiar to me, like Atlanta or Fort Myers, or even places that I saw on interstate signs when my family left Wayne County, cities like Raleigh and Greensboro. WWF, on the other hand, seemed more exotic. It was harder for me to watch and even more alluring to me that the shows took place in distant and foreign cities that I could never imagine. Places like New York City, Boston, and Los Angeles. Here's the thing about growing up in a really, really small town. You don't know what you don't know, and everywhere you haven't been seems amazing because things happen somewhere else, and things certainly do not happen in Wayne County. I remember watching the inaugural WWF King of the Ring tournament pay-per-view in 1993. The spectacle, the pageantry, the matches, and thinking that it was the greatest thing I had ever seen. If only I could make it somewhere like that, somewhere where things happened, somewhere like Dayton, Ohio. That's right. King of the Ring, 1993, happened in Dayton, Ohio, at the Nutter Center. All I knew about Dayton was that they got WWF, and that WWF would never ever come to Fremont. My fascination with things outside of Fremont only grew in middle school and high school. When my friends started going to rock concerts, there was no greater relic than showing up to school with a Tour t-shirt brought back from Walnut Creek Pavilion in Raleigh. Even if I had never heard of the band, the fact that someone from out there, out in the world, had come so close to Wayne County felt borderline miraculous. And the fact that someone I was in class with had been in the same room as someone seen on MTV was almost too much to fathom. Me and my friends, we were children of imagination. We had to be, because not a lot was happening in our little town. In fact, nothing happened there. And so, the same degree of imagination used in the Christmas pageant at Good Shepherd Lutheran Church, pretending that we were wise men or shepherds in Bethlehem, was the same degree of imagination used in our backyards, pretending that we were Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior in Madison Square Garden. My friend Brian's mom had the only garden that any of us knew about, and so we tried to make the matches as authentic as possible, much to her chagrin and the detriment of the flowers she was trying to grow. Though in truth, both of these stories, Madison Square Garden and Bethlehem, both seemed larger than life, and both felt unreachable from Fremont. Last year, I took the opportunity to travel back to Fremont, to Goldsboro, and to Wayne County, for the first real time in about 25 years, and it was surreal. My family moved when I was 15, and everything seemed to be a lot smaller than I remember it being, though in truth I am also a bit bigger than when I left. I parked on Main Street and took my dog Biscuit for a walk around the town where I was raised, remembering that feeling of just wanting to get out, and to get as far away as possible, to go somewhere where things happened, somewhere where people were. A journey that has led me to Columbus, Ohio now, twice. And after our walk around town, I put Biscuit in the car and we drove the 11 miles to Goldsboro, to the site of the old Good Shepherd. On the side of that building is a small garden, with a stone path that makes a circle. It's not a labyrinth by any means, it's simply a cross path with a circle in the middle. As a child, I barely remember going into that little garden. I remember it on the Sundays when we would walk around the church to go in the front door, instead of sneaking in the back way, through the kitchen, which was actually closer to where we parked, though those days were few and far between. On this particular day, it looked just like I remembered it. That is to say, with no one in it. And yet, as I stood there, I thought about how that place had stayed with me all those years. That even 25 years after moving away, after having been around the world myself, I could still remember that little bitty garden next to that small church there in Wayne County. I thought about all the lessons that I had learned there, and how the person that was formed around faith at that place now spends his life telling others of the good news of Jesus Christ, the good news I first saw there. That felt like a lot for such a little, empty garden. But today, we remember another empty space. As Mary and Mary go to the tomb that held Jesus to check on his body, it's there that they see an angel roll back the stone. Then they see that the tomb is empty. Jesus is no longer there. The angel's message is simple. He is going ahead of you to Galilee. There you will see him. The women, in turn, run to tell the disciples when suddenly Jesus meets them exactly where they are. "Greetings," Jesus says. Had he been there the whole time? Had they just not noticed, fixated on other things? Who's to say? But as I stood in front of that small empty garden, I asked myself the same question. Had Jesus been there the whole time? Had I simply not noticed because I was fixated on other things? I mean, I could point back at my own life to other times when I felt like God showed up, events that I could say with certainty, this was a Jesus moment or that was a Jesus moment. But could Jesus have been there the whole time? Could Jesus, the Christ, the Son of God, from the stories of the Bible, have actually shown up in Goldsboro or in Fremont? Yes, Jesus was there. Yes, Jesus is there. And yes, Jesus is with you too. In the places that you grew up, however close or far away from where you wanted to go, Jesus was there. in the full rooms and in the empty gardens of your life. Jesus was there too. We gather this day to celebrate that Jesus is with us and Jesus is already where we are headed. We gather around with Mary and Mary to see that the tomb is empty. Proof that not even death can stop Jesus in his passionate love for each and every one of us. We gather to see that Jesus has come through hell to meet us where we are and to offer us greetings of peace, love, and joy this Easter morning. Have you ever noticed that the only word Jesus says in this part of Matthew's Easter story is the word greetings? Think about that. Easter greetings are the reminder that Jesus is there for you. Easter greetings are the promise that Jesus is where you are. Easter greetings are the promise that Jesus is already wherever you are going. Easter greetings to you and yours, for he is risen. He is risen indeed. Amen.